Unfortunately, the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services is too influential in courts. Uh, I got tortured at the Continuum of Care scam because I wrote critical reviews. I have a light sensitivity called photophobia, so the unqualified staff members wasted electricity and taxpayers' money by leaving all the lights on all day, every day. They didn't have to keep the blinds open all the time, and they definitely didn't have to butcher the ecosystem by wasting electricity. So much for the lie that this doesn't concern the general public. I contacted the local media, and some liar tried telling me that the populace shouldn't know my story. What happened to me could happen to anybody. Taxpayers got ripped off, and it's not like literally everyone would be on board with paying to torture a person with autism and post-traumatic stress disorder. Not everyone's on board with torture. Some people really have compassion. I was housed with serial rapists, and I wasn't warned. I was lied to. The crooks who housed me with them knew their history. This creep, Mike Inigo Jr., had repeatedly gotten arrested for stalking and sexual harassment, and the Contiuum of Care scam kept making sure he got away with it. And the point of housing me with him was so he would violate me. He was one of at least 2 known sexual predators in that house. They could have easily broken into my room. All they'd have to do was slide a card through the door, hence somnophobia. Third shifters were stupid enough to sleep on the job like they didn't know there were serial rapists in the house. I would have never moved in if I had been told the truth, and I especially wouldn't have remained there if I had been allowed to choose where to reside. It's called conservatorship. A lawyer was appointed as a conservator of person. The housing had to be approved by a lawyer who said there had to be a conservator. I thought I had friends who drive, but apparently not. They wouldn't rescue me from emergencies. They kept pretending not to comprehend that I didn't choose where or how to live, like they thought I couldn't have been telling the truth just because they couldn't see any shackles on me. There's no way they've never heard of conservatorship. What happened to me is common knowledge. I simply don't believe them. They were lying when they said they didn't know what a conservatorship is. It's not like they haven't heard about what happened to Britney Spears. A lot of people signed a petition to free Britney Spears because, oh, dawg, she's a celebrity. But people who pretended to be my friends in real life wouldn't even have the decency to spend a few seconds signing a petition, so I didn't even try. I had to bite the bullet and call for a probate court hearing, knowing I'd be at the mercy of a probate judge. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what would happen. It's a different judge in a different district. For all I knew, I could have been opening a can of worms. The good news is, the crooked lawyer who wouldn't let me choose where to reside has been replaced. There's still a conservatorship. The good news is that it's much less of a problem now. It's an inconvenience because whenever my signature would be needed, a conservator's signature is needed. I'm nowhere near prepared to convince a judge to simply end the conservatorship. The only way out on such short notice was that my mother could be the conservator instead. It's much better than letting some lawyer get a cut of my monthly money. It adds up to a lot. Attorney Katrina Camara didn't return my calls. If she returned my call the first time, I wouldn't have to call the second time. My life was in her hands, and she threatened to call the cops on me instead of the serial rapists I was housed with. She wasn't letting me simply move out. She even accused me of harassment for calling her office. I got harassed. Mike Inigo threw out my belongings. He threw out my food. He didn't eat my food. He threw out my food. Just in case anyone questions, why not just retaliate with laxatives or worse? It'd be his fault if he steals your food. He stole my food to throw it out, not to eat it. He waited for me at a public park so I couldn't escape him. The crooks who housed me with him couldn't have possibly been unaware that he's a stalker. They encouraged him to bully me. They gaslit me. They falsely accused me of bullying him when they praised him for bullying me until they changed their minds. He targeted one of them, Sophie Dixon. At the drop of a hat, they suddenly admitted that he was and is a bully. It's a double standard. He said inappropriate remarks to one of them, so they suddenly admitted that they knew he was a sexual predator the whole time. They never really thought he was the victim. They knew I was the victim, and they knew that he had already been arrested for sexual harassment and stalking. If I had friends who drive, they would have transported me away from that house I got tortured in. I wasn't asking for too much. I shouldn't have to ask. As for why I can't transport them anywhere, I don't drive. That's why it wouldn't make sense to invite them to events I can't provide transportation. Duh. A liar who faked a friendship since middle school told me, I can't remember the last time someone reached out to me without needing something. He could have easily helped. He could have rescued me from torture. It's as simple as drive to the house I got tortured in, bring me to a better setting so I could get a break from round-the-clock torture. I wasn't asking to live with them. They could have simply allowed me at least some degree of a break. There was a liar who pretended not to comprehend that if I had been allowed to choose where to reside, I would have been elsewhere. I would have willingly paid rent for a better setting if I had been allowed to choose where to reside. I told him the whole spiel. He said, rent is standard. Like he really didn't comprehend that I wasn't allowed to choose where or how to live. All of those people were liars. They faked a friendship. They exploited me. They don't apologize because they're not sorry, and I don't forgive them. Nothing prevented them from rescuing me from emergencies. Years went by when they could have easily driven to that house and brought me elsewhere. They don't all have more than one job. They don't all have kids. There's no way that many people were incapable of rescuing a so-called friend from emergencies. One of them resorted to victim blaming. In other words, gaslighting. He falsely accused me of preventing my own happiness. And he said, I was just trying to help you have a better perspective, but apparently I don't understand what your situation is. There's no way he's never heard of a conservatorship. I'm not about to reconnect with those abusers. I'm forcibly isolated because apparently people I thought were my friends were lying to me. And it's not like I can make new friends. That's not how it works. I'm waiting on a specialist to get tinted glasses for both the light sensitivity and astigmatism. I could barely see because my eyes felt like they were on fire the whole time. The blinds were left open and the lights were kept on. That house in Wethersfield was so terrible, I had to get out of there any way I could. The only way out was to risk my life in New Haven, a slum. I feared for my life every time I walked to buy groceries. I could have been murdered. It's New Haven. Of course I don't choose where to reside. I'd never willingly reside in a slum. I've been sent to slum after slum after slum since I was 18. New Britain, Meriden, New Haven. I kept getting sent to slums and told, that's what's affordable. By who? What is this nonsense? Everybody who writes critical reviews is telling the truth. The stories match. they're all either exactly the same or at least similar. The unqualified staff members get easy paychecks for literally nothing. The so-called clients are prisoners. These crooks do nothing for us, and when we even politely request that they please do their jobs, they vow revenge, and they mean it. I'm not the only person they've tortured for trying to make them do their jobs. And all improvements got reversed because I got re-traumatized by where I was housed. I had to hide to eat because I got harassed for eating, so the manager of the house, Leanne Farley, retaliated by forbidding use of the stove at night. I got underweight, and I could have starved to death in Wethersfield. From there, when I had no choice but to move to the slums of New Haven, the manager there, Jessica, I don't recall her name, her full name, retaliated by not adding any food to the pantry. I fell deeper in debt because I had to borrow money to order food. I lost my food stamp card, and it took extra long to be sent a replacement in the mail because there were delays at the post office, and the card was sent to the conservator's office, and from there it was sent to my apartment. That would already take too long, even without the delays at the post office. And better believe that there were delays at the post office. It's a long story. That's all politics. It's a distinct topic. I have footage of the empty shelves. I'm in excruciating pain. Stomach acids were building up in my stomach for years. And every time the unqualified staff members saw me eating, they relentlessly harassed me. I gotta sustain myself somehow. Since when is it not necessary to eat to live? Where do they get this nonsense? Like there's nothing wrong with bullying a person for eating. It's absurd. Like, they were bullying me just for the sake of bullying me. It's because I wrote negative reviews. It's their fault. They gave me reasons to criticize them. They can't handle criticism, so why did they keep giving me reasons to criticize them? I can't wait to hear their rationale. I kept writing critical reviews. They kept torturing me like they thought that would silence me. I got nothing to lose. I got tortured for most of my life. Every involuntary admission exacerbated post-traumatic stress disorder. I kept getting sent through the revolving door. Over and over and over, the drug pushers forced me back to the hospital to get forcibly drugged again. I finally found a doctor to admit that the trauma really happened. It's not imaginary. No, I'm no longer falsely accused of any paranoia or delusions or lack of insight. The diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder is in the record now. And that's why those drug pushers stopped retaliating years ago. They're hiding from me now. They deserve to know what it's like to suffer in fear because of what they did to me. I really was traumatized. It's their fault they knowingly denied that I had post-traumatic stress disorder. They haven't been brought to justice because the authorities are bribed. Okay? I'm doing the best I can to convince the Department of Public Health to get rid of some crooked doctor who tortured me back when I was 18 in 2005 and more recently than that. I was prevented from reporting him at the time, and I wouldn't have been taken seriously back then. I might now. So as for statutes of limitations, I was incapable of reporting him when it happened, and what he did back then still damages me to this day, because trauma won't just let people walk away. If you get traumatized, you stay traumatized. It hasn't been too long since the most recent time I got tortured by Dr. Michael Edward Balkunis of the Hospital of Central Connecticut at New Britain General. I don't even know for a fact that the form I sent has even arrived at the Department of Public Health because the mail's still delayed. It could take months to know whether or not an investigation has been initiated. And I'm not sure if lawyers will take the case because it's the state. If I got tortured by individuals who had nothing to do with the government, there's no way I'd lose the case. But when I mentioned that it's the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, the person I talked to was like, oh, no, like, she's just a secretary, not a lawyer. She couldn't know anything with certainty. But she basically told me that maybe the reason lawyers are uninterested in my case is because they're less likely to win because of who the case is against. It's not really because I raised my voice. They don't really think I'd have to be crazy just because I raised my voice. They know that anxiety attacks cause people to raise their voices. They're personal injury lawyers, for frig's sake. Of course they comprehend why I had an anxiety attack and raised my voice. I got traumatized because I got tortured. More likely than not, the actual reason they're unwilling to take the case is because they're afraid that they'd be wasting their time, because the state could easily influence a judge to dismiss a case, no matter the merit, no matter the evidence. If the case gets dismissed, they don't get the 20% of the settlement because there's no settlement. It would have been a waste of all of our times. It's not about the money for me. I'll blow my nose on money. No amount of money can reverse the damage that's been done. It's about closure. It's about justice. Winning the lawsuit would mean that those crooks are finally brought to justice. They tortured me. Forget money. I'm in debt anyway. There's no way I'd spend that money. Yeah, so there's the situation. And if these phony friends see this video, not going to mention their names because they know who they are, I hope they finally comprehend why I don't forgive them for faking a friendship.